Minister Stephen Harper rocking it out last night at a Christmas party with the Conservative faithful. Of course, have seen some snippets of the human side of the Prime Minister over the past few years. We know he can play a piano. He can sure belt out a tune, not too bad. But what is grabbing attention right now are the comments that the Prime Minister made just recently when it comes to regulating the oil and gas sector. Here's what he had to say in question period.
Frankly, Mr. Speaker, under the current circumstances of the oil and gas sector, it would be crazy. It would be crazy economic policy to do unilateral penalties on that sector. We're clearly not going to do it.
Laurie Goldstein and Marissa Semke, our Sun News contributors, are here. All right, Laurie, let me start with you. Crazy, a right way to describe regulations on the oil and gas industry?
Yeah, particularly now. In fairness, though, I would say that the Prime Minister wasn't moving to regulate them very much when gas prices were high. But I guess what I really wish Harper would do is just have the. He's certainly preferable to any other option in the House.
Right.
But just to say, look. The Chrétien Liberals did a stupid thing when they signed us on to Kyoto. This whole process that they should have known about was rigged against a country like Canada. It's wrong. We're done with it. We're not participating. We're not going to sacrifice our sovereignty and energy policy to the United Nations or anyone else. We're going to go our own path. We're going to legally use our power to stay out of all these treaties. Enough is enough. I wish he would do that.
Well, what Harper did say is that he would consider regulations on oil and gas on a continental basis. In other words, when the United States actually decides to do something with their industry, then maybe we will too. But we're not going to handicap ourselves when there are other industries that will have an advantage over us. Now, I think there's a big debate to be had here. You know, you've got Preston Manning calling for a price on carbon. You've got Mulcair saying we need to regulate the oil and gas industry. And ultimately, when we're seeing the price of oil fall right now, this is an industry that is already struggling. When there are questions about whether or not it continues to be profitable to even develop oil, is it the right time to put any regulation of any sort on this industry?
Yeah, I just, you know, these things are interesting headlines, but in practical terms, it's impractical, really.
But the problem is that it's all impractical. You know, going right back to the so-called deal between China and the United States to lower their emissions, there's no such deal. There's no deal. There's no penalties, there's no targets, there's no nothing. China was going to peak around 2030 anyway. And so to me, you know, Marissa makes a good point. It's just, the whole thing is just a fantasy. And the problem is, the problem of lowering emissions has become completely divorced from what's really going on, which is to require nations like Canada to pay billions of dollars into a so-called climate fund every year to give to dictators in the third world. And they won't use it for what it's supposed to be for. They won't use it to lower their emissions. So I understand why Harper and his cabinet have to sort of ride the wave on this.
Sure.
Because I guess this is what you would call a shield issue for them, not a sword issue.
Yeah.
Sword issue for them is the economy.
Of course.
A shield issue is the environment. But I really think they should have more confidence in Canadians, that if you explain to Canadians clearly why what the opposition parties are proposing is absurd and economically damaging, people will understand it.
I think so too. And Marissa, I think that's an important point, because let's look forward to the 2015 election. We know the talking points from the NDP. We heard it yesterday from Megan Leslie. She's their NDP environment critic. She said the Prime Minister stood up today for the first time, admitted that they are not going to regulate the oil and gas sector so he admitted that they are breaking their promise. That is what people are going to hear from the Liberals and from the NDP.
Well, they also like to pretend, and it's sort of spin that they put on this, that they'll be going after the so-called oil barons. But inevitably, Ontarians, Canadians, we're smarter than that, and we recognize that this will ultimately be passed down to us, whether it's at the pump or it's in the price of produce. Inevitably, that is passed across because of gas-guzzling trucks. There also are already regulations on this sector. You've got a third of a gas tax, so a third of the price of tax for a liter goes into taxes. There's a $15 tax on a carbon tax in Alberta. You've got a royalty fees on production already. So we have actually regulations in place. Again, I have to go back to the fact that this is an industry that is already struggling. We saw OPEC. It's not changing the amount of production that they're going to be producing. This will impact the Canadian industry, on an industry that is already struggling. Doesn't make sense to put regulations on it right now, especially in light of the fact that the oil and gas industry employs directly 190,000 Canadians.
I'm going to pivot away slightly from this direct discussion. We have about a minute left, Laurie. I want to put this at you. A lot of headlines right now that this latest round of oil prices, they're low. I mean, I went and filled up my car today. It cost me a lot less. I don't fill up very often. I don't drive very often. But that said, I'm happy to save that extra $20, especially at this time of year. But there's headlines are grabbing headlines. Oh, this is the end of OPEC. This is the end of that aspect of regulation. Do you buy any of that?
No, that's nonsense. OPEC is driving down the price of oil to make oil from the oil sands and from shale production less economically viable. This is an OPEC policy. But I think what we learned from this is you remember when the big thing was, we've reached peak oil, there's no oil left, we have to go to renewables. Right? All of that is nonsense. Peak oil has been predicted for 80 years. It's not happening. We have to develop policies in light of reality. And the reality is that oil prices are cyclical. Oil prices will go up. This isn't because they suddenly found a lot of oil. This is of OPEC controlling their levels of production, as they're entitled to do.
I just want to say one thing, too. Ontarians were just given the Auditor General's report, okay?
And what did it say?
What did it say? $50 billion. Ontarians paying $50 billion above market rate for energy.
Yeah, okay. We're going to take a short break. We will touch on that Auditor General's report and have a listen into question period. That's next.
Minister is just about the safest job in Ontario. The Liberals are cutting health care, but the minister just denies the facts. The Liberals are cutting schools, but the minister just denies the facts. The Liberals wasted $2 billion on smart meters that didn't do their job, but the minister just denies the facts. The Liberals waste over $1 billion on gas plants and delete the evidence, and not a single Liberal faces their job loss. Just how many chances does a Liberal minister get, Speaker, before the...
That, of course, is not Ottawa's question period. That was the question period today in the Ontario legislature at Queen's Park. NDP leader Andrea Horwath going after the Wynne government on the scathing Auditor General's report, which we've been talking about for the past number of hours here at Sun News, and we will continue to talk about it. Laurie Goldstein and Marissa Semkiw are here with me. This ties in nicely to what we were just discussing, because Laurie, you mentioned how we have this idea of green oil, or green energy and all this stuff. This report ostensibly just blows a wide gaping hole right through that notion.
Well, the original selling point of the smart meters was that it would enable people to control their use and control their bills. The Auditor General basically says it's not doing that at all. And also, there are many people in the province are paying for these things. They've never been hooked up to the central grid. So it's everything that the Liberals have told us about their green energy fiasco, which includes the cancelled gas plants. That was part of it. Everything has been, I won't call it a lie. Everything has been wrong. They literally have no idea what they're doing. And the reason I say that is for the energy minister, Mr. Chiarelli, in the wake of this report, to attack the Auditor General, Bonnie Lysyk, claiming she doesn't understand energy pricing. First of all, that's outrageous. Bonnie Lysyk is an accountant. She doesn't have a political agenda. She'd be just as hard if there was a Tory or NDP government. But second, she was a senior executive at Manitoba Hydro for a decade. Chiarelli came from a rich family, and he's a lawyer. These people, they're just out of control.
One of the things that I mentioned at the top of the show when I was talking about this, Marissa, was in 2003, when then Auditor General of Canada, Sheila Fraser, brought out the sponsorship scandal audit, which was the most scathing indictment on any government in this history of this country. She said that the federal Liberals at the time had pretty much broken, quote, every rule in the book. I put this on par with that.
Yeah, the Ontario Liberals, I mean, I've actually been watching a lot of the coverage that we've been doing today, and pretty much every single contributor that comes on this subject says, this is the most scathing Auditor General's report I've seen. The numbers are just out of the water. I mean, the Ontario Liberals spend and waste billions and billions of dollars on scandal, from e-health to the gas plant scandal to Orange. I mean, so much, and then they lie about it, and they say, and they just try to basically wipe all blame from them, and they deny and they deny and they get away with it.
Yeah.
They got away with it, and ultimately, I mean, they came back and were elected with a majority.
I know. We talked earlier about, you know, not wanting to insult the intelligence of Canadians and Ontarians, but I have to question sometimes the wisdom of the electorate. But that said, we are stuck with them for 4 years. And, you know, just so our viewers know, normally, of course, in this block, we talk about what's going on federally in question period. But because this report is so extraordinarily scathing and has a direct impact on you, and the fact that all the leaders are not in the House today, they're all at Mr. Beliveau's funeral. This seemed to be the important discussion and topic to talk about. Because, you know, the fact is this. There's wealth transfer from the West to the East. Canadians all across this country who are in the wealth-generating provinces are paying for this mess. The irony and the hypocrisy that comes from them, the Liberals, arrogant. We used that in the editorial today in the Toronto Sun. So did the Toronto Star, talked about, you know, arrogance and things like that. But Lori, they are, yeah, we're stuck with them. I understand that. But you've covered Queen's Park for a long time. You've covered a lot of scandals. What if this was a Conservative government? What do you think the reaction would have been?
Oh, well, look, you know, as unaccustomed as I am to carrying water for the Liberals, they've been in power now since 2003. That's 14 years. So, of course, all of these, every era is going to be there because it's been a generational thing. This reminds me of when the Bill Davis Tories won in '81, when they were supposed to be in trouble. And as soon as they won, they got their majority after 7 years of minority. The first thing they come back and the first question that's asked of them, they talked about, I think the date of the election was March 21st. The realities of March 21st, right? Well, this is the reality of June, whatever it was. It doesn't surprise me that they're arrogant. It doesn't surprise me that they don't care. They've been returned to power. And while I would never say that the decision of the electorate is wrong, I'm not surprised by what we're seeing. I don't blame them for being arrogant.
Yeah, and what will the AG report look like a few years from now? And Kathleen Wynne, of course, you know, three years from now, she'll be in power still.
Well, so, and I'm glad you bring that up because, look, I won't discount the extraordinary nature of having a woman premier elected in this province for the first time in history, and she's an open lesbian. I think that's all great. But everybody thought it was going to be, oh, look, they're reelected. Doesn't matter about the McGuinty scandals. They've got a mandate again. Yeah, they do. I think, Marissa, this is going to be the most bumpy 4 years, and Kathleen Wynne wasn't expecting it.
It's almost as if the numbers are so astronomical, Ontarians cannot wrap their head around it. Okay, we're talking. Let's look at some of the numbers specifically. We're on track to be $325 billion in debt. That means, for, you know, to clean up this mess, every single Ontarian would have to pay, you know, $23,000 just to clean up this mess. The so-called smart meters, okay? They force smart meters upon Ontarians. They put them in their homes. It doesn't serve to help them in any way whatsoever, just so they can save $600 million. They're $500 million off the mark. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. Where are they? I don't know where they're coming from.
But, you know, that outrage that you're expressing, I appreciate it, and I think it's well placed. I just wish, and I would hope, that, you know, we're going into the Christmas season, Lori, we're going into the big spending season, winter's coming, hydro rates are going up, people are going to have to heat their homes. Yeah. That frustration you hear in Marissa's voice, you know, you would think other Ontarians, fixed incomes or whatever, would capture that, would grasp that.
Well, look, the public will do what the public does, but we as journalists have a job to do. The one thing that Kathleen Wynne said all during the last election is that she was different. She was different. She said things had been done in the past under Dalton McGuinty that were unfortunate, blah, 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 about the cancelled gap. So she has set up that she is different. She is going to presumably give us a higher standard of fiscal responsibility. I would submit that allowing your ministers to attack the Auditor General, which, if you'll recall, was the same strategy that the Liberals used when they didn't like Ontario Ombudsman Andre Moran.
That's right.
They put out leaks to, well, one newspaper in particular, bad-mouthing the guy when he was about to come up for renewal. And that, to me, in addition to all these other outrages, that's so dangerous because it shows how arrogant they are. These are Moran or the Auditor General or the Privacy Commissioner. These are officers of the legislature, and they're not partisans. They're not they're they're accountants.
Yeah.
And if you listen to what they say, it's very modest. I remember Jim McCarter, the former, slicing and dicing the Liberals' green energy program in very moderate language, just saying, look, folks, here are the numbers. Here's what they're supposed to do. Here's why they say they didn't reach it. It's nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's dangerous when I think we're seeing in the Wynne Liberals the same arrogance we saw in the Chrétien-Martin Liberals at the end, where they've been in power a long time, they've won a number of things, the opposition is weak and divided. That's not good for good governance, and that's the danger.
I don't disagree with Laurie. At a certain point, Wynne has to be honest with Ontarians. At what point will she actually come out and say, okay, we actually need to make cuts. We have to make cuts.
But does she have to be honest? She's got a majority. She can just carry on. She can carry on this way. I mean, Dalton McGuinty ran away, shut the doors and ran away. I get that. But I know what you're saying, and I would hope that. I think that I would have more respect for her.
I mean, they intend to balance the books by 2017, 2018. That won't happen.
Oh, that's never
going to happen.
No,
okay, so she continues to lie. If she's lying about this, I mean, what else is she lying about? And then, of course, we're talking about, she tables this bill about the provincial pension plan. I would be remiss to not bring this up. Okay, when you've got independent small businesses saying, wait a minute, you put the only province in Canada that would be implementing a provincial pension plan. If you do this, we will be forced to cut jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, she just throws money at things and she lies. I mean, I'm just so sick and tired of talking about this woman.
Yeah, well, we got 4 more years to do it. And again, I share your frustration. But the reality that we face right now is ballooning debt, higher than normal deficit, and an economy that is shrinking. We lost 32,000 jobs on Friday, and energy prices are going up.
And Ontario has been above the national unemployment rate since January of 2007, every month. Look, we've seen this before. You can play the games with the numbers, and you can spin, and you can blame Ottawa for underfunding Ontario on federal transfers, which isn't a totally invalid argument, but the amount of money being talked about is infinitely. Eventually, there's a day of reckoning. There was a day of reckoning in Ottawa, and ironically, who had to exert fiscal discipline in Ottawa? Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien.
Yeah.
And so in the end, it's not about politics. It's not about what party you're on. Eventually, the numbers become, you can't spin the numbers anymore, right? Bob Rae in Ontario, for heaven's sakes, after his first budget, which tripled the deficit, finally realized, oh my God, we may hit the. And what did he do? He ripped up union contracts. He forced workers to go to have unpaid days.
Yeah, that was when Rob Rae was an NDP.
Liberal Tory, same old story, NDP. Eventually, what's going to happen, Adrian, is that the numbers are going to hit. All of these financial people who've loaned money to Ontario are going to demand their money back, and then we're going to suffer.
Okay,
it doesn't matter. You can spin it any way you want. That's what we're heading for.
30 seconds left. We have a budget coming up in a few short months in Ontario. There has always been we're teetering on getting a full-blown credit downgrade. Do you see that happening in light of this whole new batch of numbers?
I think a number of economists have predicted that we will get a credit downgrade. How could it not? I mean, the economy is effectively in the toilet. It's terrible.
And that's when it starts impacting our own bottom lines and our ability to borrow. Okay, great discussion. Big thank you to Laurie Goldstein and Marissa Sempiu. So that.